Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
Off and running. Happy New Year. Welcome in after further review here on a Friday. First AFR of 2026. We're presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. Scone is back on Monday. Last day of his time off here. He'll be back Monday. Jordan Kitchens, Paul O'Neill along for the ride. We're glad you're along for the ride. As I said, happy transfer portal. It has just been a wave of information and things all day long, and really for the last few weeks with people announcing their intentions to enter the portal. You've already seen a couple guys pop somewhere, elsewhere in the portal today. Arizona State got Cutter Bully from Kentucky. So just like things of that nature, you're already seeing it. Drew Mestemaker's already at Oklahoma State. Things of that nature already happening fast and furious. But this is the official portal window now open. That is the majority of our show today, as you might expect. Aside from the portal, though, you've also seen plenty of key players announce their return for LSU, so we'll get into that. Brendan Sorsby has a visit set to LSU this weekend. He's a quarterback from Cincinnati. Depending on which service you look at, the top-ranked quarterback in the portal. We'll talk about that. Of course, we'll go through all the actual portal needs position by position for LSU today now that the window is officially open. And, oh, by the way, the Saints close out the regular season and play the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday as well. So I have to give you some thoughts here and there throughout the show on that. So as I said, we just have a ton to get to. I didn't even mention that the semifinals are set in the college football playoff. I do have some thoughts that we'll wedge that into this just information-packed show. So, Jordan, if you would help me out here, let's go ahead and get started as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right. I want to start with the returners that we've seen for LSU. And there have been 10 players that LSU has officially announced their return on social media over the past couple of days, really kind of starting on New Year's Eve, things of that nature. But there's 6 in particular that I really want to look into, and I split them up. We'll do 3 in this segment. We'll do 3 in the next. And I grouped the secondary together. So you have just kind of 3 scragglers, and Harlem Berry is the only offensive player. So let's start there. Let's start with Harlem Berry. This happened New Year's Eve, and this is just absolutely massive for LSU. Harlem Berry was one of the guys everyone was going to keep an eye on when this happened because obviously Frank Wilson, his position coach, a guy that recruited him, a coach that had just such ties to Harlem Berry, to Harlem Berry's family, the relationship that they created there, that was going to be front and central. Okay, is Harlem Berry going to be locked back up? And it was a point of emphasis for LSU from the very beginning. As soon as Kevin Smith was hired and made his first trip to Baton Rouge, the first time he was in the facility, there was an hour-long meeting with Harlem Berry, his parents, and LSU's GM, Billy Glasscock. This was something that they had to get done, that they were dead set on getting done, and ultimately they did. Harlem Berry will be back at LSU in 2026 for his sophomore season, and it's just massive. Harlem Berry is the number 1 running back in the class of 2025. He was a 5-star from New Orleans down there at St. Martin. And you really saw him emerge throughout his freshman season. They were high on him from jump, y'all. We go back to Brian Kelly in the fall leading up. He lives up to the 5-star billing. It's there. They raved about him, not just in the running game, but also being advanced in other areas, receiving, pass protection, all of those things. And while you saw Harlem Berry emerge, there's still so much untapped potential there, and the upside is so high. The ceiling is so high for a guy like Harlem Berry. But a little bit on his emergence before we move on to a couple of other players. You really saw the month of November, man. That you saw him sparingly here and there, some mop-up duty, but it was a lot of Caden Durham, Juwan Johnson early. In the month of November is where Harlem Berry really, really burst onto the scene. He had 104 carries overall on the season. 52% of those carries came in the month of November. He had a chance to be your leading rusher, and I'm telling you, he probably would have ended up your leading rusher if not for him being benched inexplicably in the bowl game because of a fumble after 3 carries. He was averaging 15 yards per carry in the Texas Bowl. It looked like Houston had no answer for him whatsoever, and if he would have continued on any shred of a pace that he was on early in that game, he would have ended up being your leading rusher, but you saw him very sparingly after the fumble. So ends up your second leading rusher on the season, right behind Caden Durham, like maybe 15 yards or so behind Caden Durham. One thing I'm really excited about to watch him now going forward in Lane Kiffin's system is his role in the pass game. Harlem Berry is just a all everything type player. He's all purpose, right? And you only saw 8 receptions for him in 2025. I expect that number to go up big in 2026 in Lane Kiffin's offense. And then, of course, continued development in pass protection. He flashed a couple of times, and that's rare as a freshman running back to come in and be able to be on the field late in your freshman season on all 3 downs. Harlem Berry was really able to do that really in the month of November, and you saw him play with a lot of physicality, a lot more physicality than I think people would expect just looking at his size and stature right now. And that's, of course, another part of this. He's going to add more weight and all of those things for Harlem Berry. But that's just a massive get back because your running back room is thin right now. You know, Caden Durham's still here. We'll see what happens. JT Lindsey's been away from the team for really since fall camp. We'll see what happens with his situation. We'll see what happens with Caden Durham. But you got the biggest piece, the biggest fish in your running back room back for 2026, and that's huge because it's a massive position of need for LSU, as we'll get to later on in the show. On defense, the big fish you get back is Whit Weeks. And look, first and foremost for Whit Weeks, this decision makes the most sense for him. We talked about this, I can't remember if it was last week or earlier this week, but we talked about this on a past show pretty recently when looking at Whit Weeks' decision. The draft stock, it just isn't where he wants it to be or where anybody wants it to be in his case if he was going to come out in April. And a lot of that is because the availability just hasn't been there for Whit Weeks. He gets hurt in the Texas Bowl against Baylor, so 2 years ago, LSU's first of back-to-back Texas Bowls. He gets injured. He works his way back. He's on time, ready to go. Gets off to a slower start, just because the guy didn't have a spring, he didn't really have a fall. Gets back to a little bit of a slower start. Really starting to hit his stride. That Ole Miss game really stood out. He had 10 tackles in that game. It was his best game of the year, and that's ultimately when he first got injured. Played through it a little bit. South Carolina, played through it there, and then missed 6 games this season. Ultimately came back for, a touch against Western Kentucky and Oklahoma. But because of that, the NFL is going to want to see him be healthy for a full season. That's 2 years in a row now that have been cut short due to injury for Whit Weeks. We know what he is when he's out there. He's awesome. It is sideline to sideline, fast speed, over almost 200 career tackles. He's gotten in the backfield plenty. He's forced turnovers. He is a game wrecker in the middle of your defense. We know that. But first and foremost, why this is so huge is the leadership aspect. That's your heart. That is your soul on defense and really on this team. You want that guy back for one more year if he's able to do it, and Whit Weeks is, and here he comes. And that's just huge because, man, you saw it. The fire, I'm not going to say it wasn't there at all, but the fire is just different with that team when Whit Weeks is out there on the field. The other thing it gives you is an absolute presence at linebacker that you needed returning because, look who all is going there. You have plenty of bodies, but Whit Weeks is by far your most proven commodity at linebacker, and you get that back. So it gives you veteran leadership, all of that back in the middle of your defense where you desperately need it going forward because you thought you'd retain plenty, and you have. But retaining plenty is one thing. Retaining the top echelon of your guys, that's another. That's what Whit Weeks brings to you on defense, and that's huge. And I'm going to tell you what, the other player to look at here defensively that LSU's getting back that you could look at and go, okay, veteran, and this is why I put him in that is because of the snap count that he's bringing back to you, is Dominic McKinley. This one was huge because, man, Dominic McKinley's a former 5-star, from Acadiana. You flipped him from Texas A&M, and he burst onto the scene as a freshman. Like, he was awesome. Had 3 sacks. Like, he dealt with some injuries early his freshman year, but when he got out there, I mean, the first play, his first play as a freshman, he sacked a quarterback from UCLA, right? So, I mean, like, he immediately flashed for you. He played much more in a rotational role this year, and the production dipped a little bit. But what he is a guy who has played 516 snaps in 2 seasons. He is a former 5-star. He is a guy who has had to wait his turn, but now looks like it is his time going forward. And he is like a Whit Weeks, especially with Ahmad Bro moving on into the transfer portal, losing Jacoby and Guillory, losing Bernard Gooden, those veteran pieces. Dominic McKinley is that guy with 516 snaps that now steps into the middle of your defense, has all the ability in the world, and is going to be looked upon to be your bell cow, probably on the interior of the defensive line. He's a freak athlete, and this is just a big piece to get back for stability reasons, aside from everything else that we just talked about. The stability that Dominic McKinley can give you there in the middle of your defensive line is absolutely massive. So those 3 in particular, huge. Weeks, Barry really can kind of be cornerstones of your offense and defense. I think Dominic McKinley can be as well. Let me be clear. I mean, I'm not trying to sell Dom McKinley short here by any stretch of the imagination. I think the world of him. I think he's a great player. And I mean, I thought you really saw him have some nice moments in the bowl game against Houston when he was finally able to be out there, you know, in a starting role again for LSU. Him getting the sack taken away from him because of the face mask was unfortunate. It was the right call, but again, go back and watch that play. I mean, he just abused the offensive lineman in front of him. He's a freak. So I look at Weeks and McKinley, and I see leadership and veteran presence returning at 2 very important positions for you in the middle of your defense, and that's huge. Then there's the secondary, and we're going to talk about that on the other side of the break, because you got 3 huge additions, or I shouldn't say additions, 3 huge returners in the secondary for you who are all going to play big roles and did this year, and they are going to be what you're counting on to continue some pretty impressive trends that LSU started here in 2025. So we'll talk about 3 key returners in the secondary for LSU next here on AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Love telling you about our friends over at Duplessis Builders, because they're going to build you a beautiful pool, build you a beautiful outdoor kitchen. They'll give you a 10-year workmanship warranty on their pool builds when the industry standard is 1. Let me say that slowly so you understand. Most pool builders, when they build your pool, they give you a 1-year warranty on their work. 1 year. Duplessis gives you a 10-year workmanship warranty, because Derek is an engineer by trade. They take the time to do it right as they go through the process of the pool build. So they're building you something that is going to last, something beautiful that's going to last. You want to know why Duplessis Builders was named a top 50 pool builder in America by Pool and Spa Magazine? Meet with them one time, you'll get it. DuplessisBuilders.net. That beautiful pool, that outdoor kitchen, they can do it all for you. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Evermore. Drink Evermore, EVAMOR, Evermore.com, Evermore.com. For elite athletes, for someone who just wants a healthier lifestyle. Maybe you're a parent, you want a healthier option for your children. Evermore is a great option. I would highly encourage you, bottom line, if you're drinking tap water, don't. Bare minimum, filter your tap water. But the best option is Evermore. This is natural artesian water. It's underground aquifers on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, right there in Covington. They dug a well into that aquifer, and I mean, it's literally thousands of years in the making. That's why they call it Mother Nature's masterpiece. That's what they're pulling out of the ground. The only filtration is take like the sediment from the ground out of the water, and it goes right into the bottle. So it never touches air until you uncap it, take that first delicious sip. Learn more where you can buy it, great retailers or online, EVAMOR, Evermore.com.
All right, back here after further review, Friday show presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Transfer portal officially open. That's really kind of what we're spending the the bulk of today's show on his portal, LSU roster, all of that. In the first segment, we talked about 3 key returners in Harlem Berry, Whit Weeks, and Dominic McKinley. Those have all been announced. There's 3 more that I want to get to, and then we really dive back into portal. We still got to get to Brendan Sorsby setting up an LSU visit. He's a quarterback from Cincinnati, as well as there's also another offensive player who's already set up a visit for LSU, or such as to LSU next week, that we'll get to a little bit later in the show as well. So we have plenty more to come. Of the 10 players that LSU has officially announced that are returning, there's 3 more that I wanted to highlight that are, I feel, really significant for 2026. They're all on the defensive side of the ball, and they're all in the secondary. Deshaun Spears, who Pete Nakos had announced was entering the transfer portal only a few hours later to come back and say, well, now he's pulling his name out and returning to LSU, and LSU officially announced it, and I think that's huge. P.J. Woodland, and then DJ Pickett. LSU's secondary in 2025 was awesome. To me, they were the strength of the defense. They were ball hawks. They were lockdown. They tackled well. I thought they gave you really nice support in the run game all throughout the season. They were an awesome unit. Some numbers, real quick, and I'll try to keep it brief so it doesn't become too much on radio with numbers, right? LSU intercepted 17 passes in 2025. That was number 7 in America. In 2024, LSU was number 111th in interceptions. From 111 to number 7. Pass defense. Your average was pretty similar. It was only about maybe 25 yards difference from 2024 to 25, but it made a huge difference in your ranking. In 2024, LSU was 76th in pass defense. In 2025, 44th. You went from not being in the top 70 to being in the top 50. Passes defended. In 2024, LSU was 45th in the country in passes defended. In 2025, you were number 15. And yeah, you're losing some out of that. Mansour Delane's going to the NFL. A.J. Halsey's going to the NFL. And y'all, they were absolute game changers for you in the secondary. 100%. But the guys you're getting back, Deshaun Spears, P.J. Woodland, DJ Pickett, were a massive part of that as well. P.J. Woodland started opposite Mansour Delane at cornerback all year long, and all he did was be a top 10 graded player overall on LSU's defense. In fact, all 3 of those players were top 10 graded players overall on LSU's defense. Deshaun Spears was number 2, behind only Mansour Delane. DJ Pickett was 4th. Those 3 players intercepted 7 of the 17 passes that LSU had. They are cornerstones for you at that position. This feels like the old days, seeing those 3 return. This feels like the height of DBU under Corey Raymond back in, the days where you had, Mo Claiborne leaves. Okay, well, you just you just roll in the next guy. You just roll in Simon. Okay, well, you lose Brandon Taylor safety. Okay, you just roll in Eric Reed. You reload, right? That's really what it felt like. The better comp I should have said was, Patrick Peterson leaves. Okay, Morris Claiborne just comes in, right? But Darryl Simon had a great career at LSU as well. Mansour Delane's out the door. All right, well, here comes DJ Pickett. Here comes P.J. Woodland. You lose A.J. Halsey. All right, it looks like DeMarcus Cooley as of now. We don't know his official intention yet. He could return. Nothing's been announced, so until nothing's announced, I guess you just assume he's back. And then, here's Deshaun Spears coming right in. Didn't take long either. But, you look at this, and I look in particular at a guy like Deshaun Spears. We talked about this before the bowl game. He was probably probably the guy I was most excited to see defensively for LSU in that game because he'd get the full start. And I thought he played very, very well, and his PFF grades, bore that out also. But you saw him in the last 2 seasons. This is a guy he played in every game. He's played in every single game in his LSU career so far. 24 games, 460 snaps, and the jump you saw him make from freshman to sophomore is exactly what you want. He improved everywhere. Y'all, his tackling grade went from 71 as a freshman to 77 as a sophomore. His coverage grade went from a 50 as a freshman to 90.6 as a sophomore. As huge as it is to get DJ Pickett back for the upside and everything that young man can and hopefully will be at LSU, Deshaun Spears is the biggest return in your secondary so far, in my opinion. His overall defensive grade as a freshman, 61. Sophomore year, 90. And he played more snaps. Everything increased for him. That is huge. I look at a guy like P.J. Woodland, and I start to think the same exact thing. Because remember, the conversation we were all having at cornerback 2, opposite Mansour Delame, is going to be Ashton Stamps. And P.J. Woodland goes out there and beats him out early on in fall camp and emerges. And it's the same thing for him. You look in every facet of his game, he got better in tackling, he got better in coverage. This is a guy who has played 787 snaps now in his time at LSU, and you're getting him back. I mean, that is a veteran piece for LSU. And as of now, I mean, look, we'll see what DJ Pickett emerges to be, but as of now, I mean, P.J. Woodland's cornerback 1 for you next year. Huge. And what you're going to want to see out of DJ Pickett, who has all the upside, is 6'5", 195, an absolute alien out there on the outside at cornerback for LSU. You want to see him take that jump from his freshman year to sophomore that you saw from P.J. Woodland, that you saw from Deshaun Spears. The difference is Pickett put even more on film for you as a freshman than those two did because he's just an absolute freak and the upside's high as it is. DJ Pickett played 524 snaps for LSU this year. He graded out just shy of an 80 overall. He was terrific against the run, and he was really, really good against coverage in a limited sample size of opportunities there. But the future is just so bright in the secondary for LSU. And again, let's see what happens with TaMarcus Cooley. Once his decision becomes public, it's official, whatever he's doing, moving on, going to the draft, coming back to LSU, whatever it might be. That's just another cornerstone because he was a huge part as well. You get him back and you have those 4, look out. But I'm going to tell you, Woodland, Pickett, and Spears, outside of Harlem Berry and Whit Week so far, those are the biggest returns that LSU has gotten. And it underscores as well how massive it was to keep Blake Baker, to retain Blake Baker like Lane Kiffin was able to do. Because the defense as a whole, we gave you the numbers on just the secondary, the defense as a whole took strides. I was looking it up earlier. I think LSU was like 20. They were top 20. They were top 25 at least, I think, believe in scoring defense. It may have been 24th, 23rd, 24th. Total defense, they were like 27th. Like, it's the best marks for them since 2017 in those respective categories. Retaining Blake Baker keeps that on track, and it also brings back a lot of the talent that helped this defense get there. In the secondary, it feels like you're not rebuilding. It feels like you're just ready to reload. But a lot of that's credit to Corey Raymond. A lot of that's credit to Jake Olson as well at the safety position. And it just feels like a movie that we've all seen before. And it's a movie that LSU got away from. And it feels real good to see that they're back there. Huge returns, huge retention so far for LSU's roster heading into 2026. Next is the transfer portal. And that's where we will turn our attention as we move forward now throughout this show, because you already have some big-time targets with visits set up to come to LSU and others on the way as well. We'll grab a break. We'll come back on the other side. Update for LSU's coaching staff. Might some of those Ole Miss assistants be done in Oxford and moving permanently now to Baton Rouge? We'll tell you who that could be, give you the report, and we'll go around the SEC next as AFR continues here on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-001-752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. I love sharing 5-star Google reviews. Here's one from Ricky Gomez, who said Chris, his technician, was very professional and knowledgeable during the HVAC evaluation. He provided details and recommendations in a clear and concise manner. That's one of the things that always stands out. If you're having an issue with your AC or your heater, and River City's 1 Hour Air sends out a technician for an evaluation, they're going to explain your options to you. And that may sound simple, but none of it, I don't know anything about an HVAC, neither do you. Let's be honest. So whenever they go get up in your attic or they go look at your HVAC unit on the side of your house and they come talk to you, they're going to explain very clearly what's happening and your options to remedy it. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. 752-0001.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Supper Club. You can book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com. One of the things about Supper Club that I love is if you want to go to Supper Club and be a baller, you can do it. You want to go to Supper Club and order a $5,000 bottle of Chateau Lafite Rothschild? You can do it. You want to go have $400 shots of cognac? You can do it. You can have experiences at Supper Club that usually are reserved for Las Vegas and New York and Paris and Abu Dhabi. That's here in Baton Rouge. But the thing you got to remember as well, if you want to go to Supper Club and have the best steak of your life and have a few appetizers, a dessert, bottle of wine, you can do it as affordably as any other restaurant in town. But the experience at Supper Club is unmatched. Introduced open seating at the bar, first come, first serve. So if you knock off of work, you want to head by Supper Club, you can walk in without a reservation, see if you can grab a bar stool or a table by the bar as well. Have a great dinner, maybe cocktail, close some business. Book your reservation, supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com.
All right, we're going to go around the SEC here momentarily. It's after further review, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar on a Friday. First AFR of the new year. Happy New Year to all of you joining us. I hope you've had a great holiday season. Matt will be back on Monday, and boy, does he have plenty to catch up on. One thing that we definitely need to keep an eye on now is this report from Yahoo Sports and Ross Dellinger. It was included in Ross's, I don't want to call it a gamer because it wasn't a gamer, but it was his article about Ole Miss's upset win against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl on Thursday night. And it is that the six, I don't know if you should call them LSU assistants or Ole Miss assistants. I mean, they're coaching Ole Miss, but they've all signed deals with LSU. I don't know. The 6 members of Lane Kiffin's staff that were with him at Ole Miss and are joining him at LSU and still coaching Ole Miss, it remains unclear if they're going to continue to do that. It sounds like for many, probably not all of them, but many of them, their run with Ole Miss in the college football playoff is over, and they will join LSU full staff. Now, I will point out that Charlie Weiss Jr. probably is not one of those. He has expressed desire to remain with Ole Miss, call the plays throughout their college football playoff run, however long that may continue to be. So it might not be Charlie Weiss, but you're looking at some of the position coaches. Those guys are probably now finished. That's what this report suggests. That's what some around LSU have suggested. Some around Ole Miss have even suggested that as well. In fact, Many of them were not even listed on Ole Miss's official coaching roster for the Sugar Bowl. Some of the position coaches, that gives you the hint that, okay, those are the ones to really watch. So, look, I'm largely in favor of that. I wish you could get Charlie Weiss as well. He wants to do right. I mean, Cole Kubelik actually had a tweet earlier today as well that he spoke with Charlie Weiss on the field at the Sugar Bowl, and Weiss informed him that he intended as well to continue to coach Ole Miss throughout the playoffs. So, makes sense. I mean, look, if Ole Miss wants any fighting chance, they need their play caller. And especially against the Miami defense that they're going to face, Charlie Weiss leaving them, that would stink. And LSU has really put enough protections into that deal that he signed to where, I mean, he'd owe like 300% of his contract. Basically, if he left LSU before April 1st, they feel fine there in that regard. The other reason this just needs to be done is there's plenty. First, LSU needs their staff in-house now, because the transfer portal is happening. Just take the wide receiver coaches as an example. Wide receiver is one of LSU's biggest needs in the transfer portal. Like, your top 4 wide receivers in terms of yards of production, 80% of your production, they're leaving. Like, you need your position coaches in there to be able to help you in this portal cycle. And that goes to really have their full focus on the portal cycle. That goes for everyone on staff, but we use that as an example. The other reason is this is just messy, and it needs to stop. We talked about this a week ago as well in one of Ross's pieces about, or it might have been earlier this week. I don't know. Everything runs together at this time of the year and this time of the calendar. You forget what day it is, right? I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Today feels like a Saturday to me. But anyway, I digress. Ole Miss is outwardly saying there's tampering going on and that they're going to compile a case against LSU and Lane Kiffin to try and prove tampering. Now, the conversation we had about this is it revolved around Trinidad Chambliss, talking about he has not had conversations with Lane Kiffin about moving on. He probably hasn't. Those conversations are with agents and all of that. And, oh, by the way, you had 6 assistants in your building who were leaving your program, still coaching your team. So, yeah, I'm sure you could try and be like, oh, yeah, there's tampering going on. There's tampering going on everywhere. It's just how it happens. But if you're trying to prove a case, welcoming back in 6 assistants who are leaving you probably isn't going to help you do that. So just with the overall messiness of this whole thing, it needs to end. And LSU needs their staffers, and they need stability in their building now, going forward. Because now, again, use the wide receiver as an example. Ohio State officially announced Cortez Hankton today. There's no full-time wide receiver coach in LSU's building in a very critical time. So I'm 100% in favor of this. I wish it were all of them, but I understand Charlie Weiss and a couple others' desire to maybe continue this run out with Ole Miss, and I understand the need for that too. But, yeah, it's time. So that's your report from Ross Dellinger earlier that it remains unclear, but the clearer part of it was when Ross said many around Ole Miss's program expect, quote, some or all to officially join the LSU staff and move on and end their run with Ole Miss. And that needs to happen. And hopefully that will just further some change in all of this calendar so this doesn't happen in the future. But we'll see. We'll keep you posted. I'm sure we'll get official word on that maybe as we move throughout the day today, but if not, definitely next week as and this weekend as Ole Miss starts preparation for their semifinal game against Miami. Who's there helping them prepare? Who's not? That'll be your answer. That's all you need to know. All right, it's after further review. We're here on a Friday. Musso in for Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Let's go ahead and go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Ole Miss Rebels.
Speaking of Ole Miss, quarterback Austin Simmons. He's entering the transfer portal. Hayes Fawcett, Pete Nakos on the report for that news. Worth noting, Austin Simmons as well enters with a do not contact tab. Pete Nakos says Missouri is really the one and only team to watch here. Came in as the team starter in 2025, the incumbent following Jackson Dart. Did lead them to wins over Georgia State and Kentucky. Ended up being injured, missed multiple games, and then Trinidad Chambliss kind of took over and is now the starting quarterback at Ole Miss and has been leading them on this playoff win. Austin Simmons seeking greener pastures or a new opportunity, and it looks like it's going to be the Missouri Tigers.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Familiar name here. Tennessee offensive tackle Lance Hurd is entering the transfer portal. Of course, originally began his career at LSU, played 1 year in Baton Rouge, and then went up to Rocky Top. Third volunteer offensive lineman to enter the portal. Coming off his best collegiate season, 832 snaps at left tackle, his highest PFF grade as well. He also graded out as the Vols' second best pass blocker on their team. Third team All-SEC this fall, but is leaving Old Rocky Top.
The Missouri Tigers.
Missouri starting safety Marvin Burks is entering the transfer portal. That news confirmed today. Played a team-high 605 snaps for the Tigers defense this year. Started every game for Missouri in 2025. Has played in 36 in his career over the last 3 years, but will finish his career not in Columbia.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
South Carolina's leading receiver in terms of receptions, Vandrevius Jones. He is entering the transfer portal. It'll be his third school. He originally began his career at Florida State, spent 1 season there, then transferred to South Carolina, where he's played the last 32 receptions. As said, that led the team. He was second in yards and touchdowns.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
This is an interesting one. Oklahoma running back Taylor Tatum is entering the transfer portal. He spent the past 2 seasons in Norman, but he redshirted in 2025. He'll have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. He was the #1 running back in the class of 2025 and really burst onto the scene as a true freshman. Played in 11 games with 3 starts for the Sooners back in 2024. Injuries did cost him a couple of games, but now former #1 running back in the country is in the portal out of Oklahoma.
The Auburn Tigers.
And finally, Jarris McIntyre will join Alex Golish's staff at Auburn. Of course, former Auburn wide receiver, really burst onto the scene in 2003, his senior year. Had a great season, led him to be drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. He comes to Auburn from Central Florida, where he was the Knights' director of high school relations. He's expected to work in the same role for Auburn, as well as some alumni relations on the Plains as well. All right, that is around the SEC here on this Friday. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side, take a brief step away from transfer portal. Got to get you a quick update on the Saints and Falcons injury report ahead of the series and the season finale for New Orleans. That's next here to close out hour 1 of AFR.
After further review.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan, injury attorneys. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, do what injured people in Louisiana have done for more than 30 years. Call Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. 888-8888. It's all 8s. 888-8888. I don't even need to give you the area code because no matter where you are in the state, it doesn't matter. Just dial 888-8888 for Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Gordon does an awesome job, man. He's a great person. They've been so invested in our communities with all the charitable and service work that they do. They give back into the communities that they represent, no matter what time of year. If it's the bike giveaway for kids around Christmas time, if it's the laptop giveaway around back to school time, if it's the charitable work they do during October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they're always involved in the community. We tell you all the time, of course, about the G team and what Gordon's done with NIL and the opportunities that he's afforded student athletes. Just a great, great community partner. If you've been injured, you need representation, go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
About Arco Power Systems, ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com. That's Arco Power Systems. We talk about generators a lot in Louisiana, especially all along the Gulf Coast, where we're sort of in this storm belt right here in the Gulf Coast. Well, of course, a lot of people have home standby generators. When we talk about Arco Power Systems, these are not home standby generators. This is industrial generator power. This is for your business. I mean, just think about it. When the power goes out, be it a hurricane, an ice storm, snow like we had last year, power goes out. what do you do with your business? Well, being offline is not an option. That's why you need Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com, arco.com. Just look at all the locations. Baton Rouge, Bossier, Harvey, Lake Charles, Mandeville, Mobile, LaPorte, Texas, San Antonio, Little Rock, Houston, Dallas. They're everywhere. So if you're a business and you need standby power for your business, you need Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, arco.com, arco.com, arco.com.
All right, we're going to get back to the transfer portal at the top of the hour. So I'll talk about Brendan Sorsby, and I'm fired up to talk about that and the potential for him at LSU. I mean, that's really exciting. I still want to go through what I think are LSU's biggest portal needs as well. So we have a lot more portal coming. And also, I mean, Lane Kiffin's out there tweeting out tiger emojis as well. So who knows what else might be coming down the pike today. But while I have a few minutes here just to close out the hour, I do want to touch on Saints, Falcons, and the final injury report, because that is out. The Saints will wrap up the season in Atlanta, looking to win 5 straight to close out Kellen Moore's first season and really punctuate what hopefully is a offensive rookie of the year season for quarterback Tyler Shuck. But stop me if you've heard this before. They're going to be really shorthanded if they're going to go ahead and do that. And the biggest one is Chris Olave. Chris Olave is out for this game. You saw earlier in the week, if you're paying attention to the injury report, illness is what he was listed as. It turns out it was pretty serious. The Saints medical staff discovered a blood clot in one of Chris Olave's lungs. So he went in for a procedure in the hospital. He posted a picture of himself in the hospital bed, either before or after this procedure, thanking the Saints medical staff, thanking everybody, can't keep him down, all of those things as well, thanking everybody for the support. As well, it's worth noting Olave does not have a history with blood clots at all, so they took care of this, and he is expected to be recovered within the next month, and will be able to participate in the Saints off-season program, when it begins in April. That's all according to sources. Kat Terrell had that, Nick Underhill, Adam Schefter, all of these guys, all of the best reporters out there passing that information along. This is, first and foremost, very happy that Chris Olave is going to be healthy. And this was not, they caught this when they did, and it wasn't something more serious. That's a blood clot in your lung is scary, y'all. Like, I think we can all agree that's serious. So just on the human side, very, very happy that it was discovered and taken care of. And hopefully it never creeps back up for him again in his life. And he's just happy and healthy and goes on to continue what has been so far a stellar career in the NFL. For Chris Olave, the football player, and for the New Orleans Saints, this stinks that he's going to miss this game. All right. Like, that is a part of this conversation as well. And he has been awesome for you, particularly the last 3 weeks, going over 100 yards both weeks, just being your go-to guy, the no doubt you have to go to 12. That's who they're looking for, and just getting open and executing in those spots. He's been remarkable. He has had a career year, 100 receptions, over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, all career marks for Chris Olave. And it's ultimately going to get him the contract that he desires in New Orleans, and that I personally think that he has earned and deserves as well in New Orleans. So that portion of it for him stinks because he doesn't have a chance to polish off this career year by potentially becoming the first player in Saints history with 100 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And it was looking like he was going to get there. He won't. But it's been an awesome year for him and something to definitely build on going forward. And again, it's just great that they found the blood clot when they did. In terms of the Saints, who the hell are you going to throw the ball to now? I mean, that's Juwan Johnson. It's gonna be a combination of Juwan Johnson, Kevin Austin, Dante Pettis, because Mason Tipton just went to IR, so you don't have him either. Devon Vele, it is worth noting, wasn't on the injury report, wasn't listed as one of the players that went to IR. So potentially, is there a return there? I don't know. It kind of feels like a bit of a long shot still, maybe. We'll wait and see. There will also be no Alvin Kamara, no Brian Brzee, no Nathan Shepard. Cesar Ruiz is set for a return, so you at least will have one guy back on your offensive line if you're the New Orleans Saints, as well as Dylan Radin's full participant with a knee today after being limited and not practicing. He's questionable. So at least your offensive line looks like it could be back to full strength minus Eric McCoy. but it is just going to be another interesting piece together for the New Orleans Saints. Jack Stoll, Mason Tipton also not going to play. They were sent to IR. So again, at receiver, we'll see what maybe you can get out of Devon Vele potentially there. Thought that he could have made a return at some point this season. Not on the injury report. Haven't seen him move to IR. So maybe that's a long shot there. That'd be great. He came on large for you there at the end of the season before the injury happened. He was really huge for you over the middle of the field. So we'll see there, but it's going to be an uphill battle. As for the Falcons, I mean they're healthy. I mean they're quite healthy. Drake London will play. Kyle Pitts most likely going to play. Darnell Mooney also with the knee is going to play. So I mean, and they just have a whole host of other guys non-injury rest, like Jesse Bates, who's awesome, and Caden Ellis, who's a former Saint, is really good. David Onyemata, former Saint, really good. But it's all injury rest days, or excuse me, veteran rest days. So I mean, they'll all be in there. The Falcons will be pretty much at full strength, only without Brandon Dorlus and Clark Phillips III. Those are the only two on the defensive side that are out for the Atlanta Falcons. Saints, Falcons to close out the NFL regular season, to close out the regular season for both teams. They've been eliminated from playoff contention as well. We'll give you a final pick and thought on that game as we close out the show a little bit later on. Right now, we're going to grab a break. We're going to come back on the other side, no Sports Center, so we'll just come straight back in, and we'll talk about Brendan Sorsby setting up a visit for LSU. What are the Tigers' chance of landing him? Who's their competition? We'll tell you all of that next in Hour 2 of AFR.
After further review,